It is my pleasure now to introduce to you the Reverend Dr. Jennifer Yocum, whose title is The Feast of Pluralism, Avoiding Indigestion for Self and Others. Dr. Yocum earned her master's degree in applied theology through a program that studied spiritual practices and liturgy through the lenses of several religious traditions. This intense interfaith approach gave her an appreciation of the beauty and pain that shapes all religious practices. She will share her insights through her personal spiritual practice of storytelling. Please welcome the Reverend Dr. Jennifer Yocum.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to make that applause a ringtone on my phone. That sounds great. So I am Jennifer Yocum. I am an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ, the UCC, which is sometimes spelled out as Unitarians Considering Christ, so I'm with my people. And I know I'm with my people because you're church people, and I know you love a potluck. Is that true? Do you love a potluck? There you go. Do you have favorite dishes that you love to see at the potluck? What are those? Macaroni. Oh, there you go. All right. Soups, macaroni, and cheese, awesome. When you look out on the potluck, though, do you see some things you're like, ew? Are there like, are there dishes or ingredients that you don't like to see at the potluck? Yes. Oh yeah, okay. And apparently avocado and quinoa, no more. So my thing that I can't see on the table is cilantro. Okay, I have any cilantro haters in the? Yeah, okay, all right. Now, most of you know that if you don't like cilantro, it's often due to a genetic kind of difference that we have that we just can't tolerate. For those of you who don't like it, what does it taste like to you? Soap. Other people say perfume. To me, it tastes like death, okay? It hits, I think this is actually true, it hits the poison center in my mind. It's like this soap perfume thing is, don't eat that. It's bad for you. For me, it's just like, blah! So the real problem with cilantro is that when you chop it up and you're going to use it as a garnish, it tries to sneak its way past, looking like parsley or mint or something. So it's always a little tenuous going up to it and like, I don't know if you're okay or not. Here's the thing, though. When it comes to pluralism and the activity of being in community and of being in loving community, we're always going to find that there's a little cilantro in there somewhere. There's always going to be a little, but the question is, how do we participate in community? What are the strategies that we use to participate in community? Because the blessing of living in community is recognizing the diversities and the strengths and the blessings and sometimes the pitfalls that are in that community. How do you cope with the cilantro, right? Or for those of us who are at a certain age and are becoming a little lactose intolerant, how do you deal with the dairy? I mean, there's so much that we have to deal with, right? So there are a lot of strategies that we use at the potluck or that we use in community that are appropriate, that are right, that are good, but not all strategies are all good all the time, right? So there's some folks who go to the potluck and I'm going to look for the thing that I recognize. I'm just going to stay with that, and I'm not going to venture out. It's like the deviled eggs, the fried chicken, the green salad, and I'm out, right? That may very well be appropriate for some folks in some settings. It's fine, okay? There are some times we're going to be in a setting where there's a lot of chaos, a lot of upset, and the greatest gift we can provide to ourselves and community is to go for something familiar and comforting. Okay? That's fine. Another approach we can use is to look at saying, okay, I know there's a lot of differences here. There's a lot of different ideas, different approaches. I'm going to work on tolerance. Okay? I'm going to come from a perspective that says, I'm going to walk in, I am not going to choose to engage in apologetics, which is the promotion that my idea is right, or in polemics, which is the promotion that your idea is wrong, right? I'm going to cultivate tolerance. I'm going to look at that potluck table. I'm going to see that there is a Jell-O salad. I'm going to say, I see you, Jell-O salad. I appreciate that someone took the time and the effort to bring you. You are not going to pass my lips. But I appreciate the presence of that item or that idea. And then there's a relativist approach that looks at everything on the tables and says, it's all good, it's all going in the same hole, you know? Which may have its blessings. Those people are super easy to feed. They'll eat anything. I appreciate that. That is not me, but I appreciate it. So it's about cultivating appreciation for different approaches. Sometimes we talk about being in a diverse society, and the best we can do, recognizing that someone has an idea that is really offensive. Something about subjugating people by race or color or gender or sexual orientation. And that's really offensive to us. But we have to remember, and this is the language I'm going to use, that person too is a beloved child of God. That person too is a manifestation of the sacred. There are things that are happening in our political world today that really have to remind me every day, oh God, please help me remember that these people, that these people are beloved of you too. I can focus on loving all humankind without having to accept or even tolerate all philosophical perspectives. It's okay not to dip your spoon in to the bowl of cilantro, right? It's okay to make those distinctions. Pluralism says beyond tolerance, there's one step more. Pluralism says here is a different approach, belief system, political system, whatever it is, and I am going to engage with that. I'm going to enter it more deeply. I'm going to bring my own sense of who I am into relationship with this other person who has a different idea, not to argue that I'm right or they're wrong, but not to make any compare contrast judgment statements, but to look for where that value is, to look for where that pain and suffering might be, to look for that and come into relationship with that other person and try to understand that set of ideas a little bit more deeply. Professor Diana Eck is at the Harvard Divinity School. Several years ago, at the beginning of her career, she wrote a book called From Bozeman to Benares. I love the title. What she said is that up to this time, when we looked at world religions in particular, there was this effort to create sort of an academic distance, a purely observational anthropological approach to looking at different world religions, as though it were possible for human beings from one set of cultures and filters and values to set that aside and then to observe others. That's not possible. The goal of any good writer is not, or researcher or academician, is not to deny their own experiences, their own truth. It is, in fact, to come into relationship with the other with a clearer sense of knowing self. And then in the encounter with the other, to let my values and my background and my tradition be decentered, right? So that in engagement with the other, I can further come to know them and myself. In Bozeman to Benares, Dr. Eck was coming from a Methodist background in Montana and realized that she could not fully engage with the Hindus around Benares without more fully understanding her Methodist background from Montana. Pluralism says, know and honor yourself and your experiences and bring that into the conversation with the other and their experiences with humility, with courage, and with compassion. But here's the trick. You can't just go up to somebody who represents, who is wearing the hat of the party that you don't identify with and say, Hi, can I engage in a pluralistic conversation with you? You can't, it's not appropriate to do it. You're going to frighten them first, but you have to have agreement with the other. So my strategy to avoid indigestion is don't try to engage in a conversation that the other is not ready or willing or prepared to take part in. It's unfair to them and it's unfair to you. If you just want to focus on developing your tolerance, that's great. Pluralism is a different activity. It's a different orientation, and it is a necessary one. Dr. Eck at Harvard currently heads up something called the Pluralism Project. And she is focusing on finding ways that groups intentionally form together from different backgrounds to achieve a greater end. She says the first and primary reason to engage in pluralistic dialogue is to help people stop killing each other and stop dying at each other's hands over differences in belief systems. That's only the first reason, though. The second reason is that we need each other. We need each other's wisdom. We need each other's energy. We need each other's point of view. And so one of the areas that she looks at is interfaith organizations who are working on climate change or hunger or homelessness, recognizing that within the differences in our religions, in our belief systems, in our philosophical systems, there is wisdom that we need to gain from each other. And then the third reason to engage in pluralistic discourse, pluralistic dialogue, is to build community so that we can love each other. And when we are facing these crises, and when we're facing devastation, we're facing chaos, we can reach out to each other and say, we already have these relationships in place. We already have these understandings in place. And now let us go forward together. Let us recover together. Let us make progress together. 2016, I am a pastor in Forest Grove, Oregon, and I have two kind of significant and yet different motivations in mind. One is I really wanted to work on a doctoral program. I'd wanted since I was 5 years old to become Dr. Yocum in something. But the other issue that I was facing is that a lot of the energy in my progressive Christian setting was focused on blaming and being mad at evangelical Christians. And I'd had so many bad experiences with evangelical Christianity and individuals representing that point of view, but I just didn't want to hate them anymore. I didn't want to be afraid of them anymore, because that's the thing. Fear is always a part of somebody else's hate. I didn't want to do that anymore, and I had attempts to engage with others from that tradition that had all gone a little weird. One time, a Baptist minister I was trying to work with finally came to the conclusion that we worshiped different gods. And I looked at him and said, you realize, Alan, that's heretical, right? You know, that is foundational Christian theology. And he said, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Wow. So I wanted to do these two things. I wanted to do a doctoral program over here, and I wanted to stop hating and fearing evangelical Christians over here. And I did not know if there was any way those two were connected, but I prayed on both. I just prayed on them, and scrolling different doctoral programs, and I see that there's a program in preaching as storytelling. I'm like, wow, that sounds great. And it's at an evangelical seminary. What? The Holy Spirit has an amazing sense of humor. Be careful what you pray for. Thank God the program was going to start in 4 days. I didn't have any time to think about it. I went through all the processes. I got into the program. I sat in my pickup truck at the bar that we were supposed to meet at, but that was a good sign. And they all started to introduce themselves and said, my name is so-and-so. I serve at this church. My wife is this. My children are this. Every single one, 13 people in the program, comes to me. I'm the last person in the program. Hi, my name is Jennifer. My wife is Ellen. Two of the members of the program went to complain to the program director, but the that there was one of me, a queer folk, in the program. Their complaints, though, this is what surprised me. It wasn't that they were mad at me. They didn't know me. It was that the aspect of just my simple participation in the program threatened their careers. I had a member of my class, great guy, such a supportive guy, loved me, and I loved him as a classmate. He, at the end of the program, told me that if his bishop had known that I was in the program, he would have been defrocked. He stayed in that program with his courage and his practice of being circumspect and not mentioning he was in a program with a lesbian. He stayed in there because he was courageous himself, because he was willing himself to have his heart opened. This is what I learned about these other evangelical Christian pastors. They were people, yay. They were willing to have their minds and hearts opened and challenged by ideas that I brought, as I was willing to have my heart opened and challenged by ideas that they thought that they brought. But while my tradition celebrated freedom of pulpit, I could say or think whatever I wanted, their traditions didn't. And that even if their minds or hearts were opened and changed internally, for them to speak that publicly threatened their careers. And I did not know that. We do not know so often the fears and the pains and the struggles of those we cast on the side of otherness. But if we ourselves are willing to engage with those others in a way that illuminates their humanity and ours, that illuminates their wisdom and ours, and that helps us understand, apprehend, appreciate God's known and unknown, to help us stay our murderous hands, then that is grace. And that is the sacred. May it be so.
Is Ella Sohn here? No? Okay.